Ապրիկի շարավիղները հասնում են մինչև օրերս, այդ 11 ճյուղերից ես 2000
Armen African devoted 2 years of his life to exploration of the roots of his family. African is one of Armenia's rarely met surnames with fascinating history that goes back to 1760s.
We found out that our surname comes from Aprik's name, whose father's family migrated from Old Bayazet to Armenia during the Russo-Turkish War in 1829. Aprik, whose real name was Abraham, had 11 sons and 1 daughter. So today we continue the lineage of those 11 initial branches.
At the beginning of the 20th century, Africans were famous in social, political and cultural life of the country. They had a big role in the spheres of trade and industry and were mostly appreciated for a number of philanthropies. Among the cultural heritage of this famous family, in Yerevan there stand 2 buildings once belonging to them, one in Pushkin Street and the other in Terian Street. The latter is in a very bad condition and is in danger of totally vanishing. In the 20th century, it used to serve as a city club and a gathering place for the elite of Yerevan. Last year, the stones of the building were numbered. That means it is planned to be dismantled at least.
We organized many different rallies under petition, but they have intended to destroy the building according to the government decision since 2007. They justify it with the argument that the road needs to be widened and the building stands immediately on the road.
Africans building together with several other already dismantled buildings is supposed to be included in a reconstruction project called Old Yerevan. The idea is to recreate in one complex all culturally important houses that were demolished in different historical parts of Yerevan. Its originator and the chief architect Levon Vartanyan remembers that the project has been developed in Soviet times when a bigger part of this area was still standing. As his intention was then ignored, he suggested it again in 2004 when there was a plan to destroy whatever was saved and to clean the area. This time it was supported by municipality.
My suggestion was again ignored by the city's chief architect, but likely the mayor realized its importance and approved it. In those years, the dismantling of the buildings had already started and people were not informed about the fate of those buildings. As a result, a tension arose among the society, accompanied by protests, candle lighting, etc. So we can say the project Old Yerevan was a well-timed suggestion.
Project implementation is delayed for 8 years. Working on the model has been restarted last year. It still needs finalization and approval, but architect hopes that reconstruction will start by the end of the year. With enough financial support provided, the project can be finished in 3 to 5 years.
The reconstruction project includes the territory framed by 4 central streets of the city: Abovyan, Aram, Byzant and Koghbatsi, with the length of about 320 meters. According to city master plan, this was supposed to be the central avenue serving as a boulevard for pedestrians, so we decided not to ignore that idea. Putting the buildings on both sides, we keep the area in the center with the width of 20 meters for pedestrians. The roofs of the buildings are also for sauntering, as they used to be in Old Yerevan.
Okortich Minasyan, the head of the Union of Architects, sees a controversy between this project and the master plan of the city drawn about a century ago by the architect Alexander Tamanyan. The latter imagined it to be a verdurous area forming the central avenue of the city, stretching from east to west. Minasyan thinks that Yerevan needs more green areas, parks and boulevards for sauntering, rather than more cafes or boutiques.
My first impression is that it would be better to leave only the standing few buildings there. When we dismantle buildings and rebuild them in another place, trying to get the concept of old city, the idea doesn't work out. When we move a monument from its original place, it stops functioning as a monument. It looks like something performed and doesn't really transform the feeling that we are in old city.
Haik Bianjan, a documentary photographer living in Yerevan, has been trying to capture on his camera the problems caused by different constructions since 2003. First, he was happy with the project Old Yerevan. Now he considers it useless.
I can say now it is impossible to rebuild the ruined buildings. The stones of most dismantled monuments don't exist at all. I have the photos showing in what condition they are. The separate stones become naked and defenseless. They are not concerned and being kept under the open sky. They are affected by the sun, rains and the changing climate. Everything is vanishing under the open sky.
But Old Yerevan is not only buildings of a cultural importance, it is also the people living in the unbearable conditions. There are old dwellings with no significant historical value that are not included in a restoration project and should be destroyed. The fate of the inhabitants is still unknown. Susanna has been living in Old Yerevan since 1986 when she got married. Her husband is already the fourth generation of their family living in this address. She remembers that years ago the situation of this area was much better. Now she says everything is collapsing, especially after the constructions of the high-rise buildings in the surroundings. The woman is following every new step of the project Old Yerevan, as she considers it impossible to live in such conditions. The awful smell, fires and robberies are not something surprising for these people.
Once some Italian tourists came with their translator. They walked around, saw the houses, and when learning that soon the buildings will be destroyed, one of them said, "It's such a pity, they are going to destroy the houses." Of course it's a pity. It would be nice to save the old houses as antiquity, but the inhabitants cannot be treated as antiquity as well.
A good compensation for her would be a flat in the city center or corresponding money. Naira has been living in this house since she was born. She knows that their house was built in 1878, so it has a history of 135 years. Since then, almost nothing has changed about this house. Naira remembers that there were rumors about destroying this area even when she was a small child. That's why they have never dared to start a major repair of the house.
Nothing will help. The house cannot live, cannot breathe any longer. This is the last year we stay here. Even if they don't start the reconstruction, we will move to somewhere else, be it an apartment for rent, before something is clarified about the project. It's no more possible to stay. The house ruins.
Anyway, Naira's family is not going to leave the house to the mercy of fate. They have witnessed some sad cases in the neighborhood, when people were forced to leave their own houses being left with nothing.
We believe and trust no one at all. Everywhere they cheat, everyone.
Photographer Haik Bianjan already witnessed many distorted destinies, both of people and the city.